Welcome back to Grace and Truth Network channel. Before we dive into the most disturbing story in the entire Bible, I want to invite you to stay with me until the end. This tale from Judges 19:21, though harrowing and difficult to hear, holds crucial lessons that we need to understand. I'll narrate the story as dramatically as possible, and then explore the important teachings we can draw from it. Join me as we delve into this profound and challenging account, and discover the insights it offers for our lives today. We begin in Judges chapter 19, verse 1. In those days when there was no king in Israel, a Levite who lived in a remote part of the hill country of Ephraim acquired a woman from Bethlehem of Judah as his concubine. This initial setting highlights the absence of centralized authority in Israel, a theme that underpins much of the chaos and moral decay in the narrative. The Levite, residing in the northern part of Israel, took a concubine from the southern region of Bethlehem. The woman was unfaithful to the Levite and left him to return to her father's house in Bethlehem, where she stayed for 4 months. The Levite, desiring to bring her back, traveled from Ephraim to Bethlehem. When he arrived, her father welcomed him hospitably, repeatedly urging him to stay longer. This cycle of hospitality continued for several days until the Levite finally insisted on returning home, taking his concubine with him. As the Levite, his concubine, and his servant traveled, they found themselves near Jebus, Jerusalem, as the day was ending. The servant suggested stopping there, but the Levite refused, wanting to avoid staying in a foreign city and preferring to reach Gibeah, a town belonging to the tribe of Benjamin. As they arrived in Gibeah, no one offered them hospitality, a significant breach of the cultural norms of the time. Eventually, an old man returning from his work in the fields found them in the town square and invited them into his home. While they were enjoying themselves in the old man's house, a group of wicked men from the city surrounded the house, banging on the door and demanding to have sex with the Levite. The homeowner went out to plead with them, offering his virgin daughter and the Levite's concubine instead, urging the men not to commit such an atrocity against his guest. The men refused to listen, so the Levite sent his concubine out to them. They raped and abused her throughout the night. The concubine managed to return to the house and collapsed at the door, where she lay with her hands on the threshold. In the morning, the Levite found her there, telling her to get up, but there was no response. She had died from the abuse. The Levite placed her body on his donkey and took her home. Once there, he cut her body into 12 pieces and sent them throughout the territory of Israel, accompanied by a message detailing the atrocity committed. This gruesome act shocked the Israelites, who declared that nothing like this had ever happened since they left Egypt. The tribes of Israel assembled to address this heinous crime, and they demanded justice from the tribe of Benjamin, asking them to surrender the men responsible. The Benjamites refused, leading to a civil war between the tribe of Benjamin and the other 11 tribes of Israel. The Israelites sought the Lord's guidance and were initially defeated by the Benjamites. However, after regrouping and seeking God's favor once more, they eventually triumphed, killing many Benjamites and burning their cities. Only 600 Benjamite men survived by fleeing into the wilderness. In the aftermath, the Israelites grieved for the near destruction of one of their tribes. They devised a plan to provide wives for the remaining Benjamite men so that the tribe would not become extinct. They attacked the town of Jabesh Gilead, killing all except for 400 virgins, whom they gave to the Benjamites. However, there were still not enough women, so they instructed the Benjamites to kidnap women from Shiloh during a festival. This series of events highlights the extreme measures taken to ensure the survival of the tribe, but also underscores the continuing cycle of violence and moral compromise. Now that we have recounted the story, let's delve into the lessons it imparts. The first lesson is the consequence of having no accountability. Judges 19:1 begins by stating, "In those days when there was no king in Israel, this absence of central authority and accountability led to moral decay and chaos." When people believe they are not answerable to anyone, they are more likely to make poor decisions, thinking they can act without consequence. The lack of enforcement of the law in Israel allowed people to commit heinous acts they might never have imagined under a system of accountability. The second lesson is the importance of treating every human being as a bearer of the image of God. The old man's willingness to offer his daughter and the Levite's concubine to the mob highlights a disturbing disregard for the women's dignity and value. He considered the life and virtue of his male guest more important than those of his daughter and the concubine. This mindset is deeply flawed and emphasizes the need to recognize and respect the inherent worth of every individual. In our own lives, this means rejecting the objectification and dehumanization of others, whether in person or through media. The third lesson is the danger of straying from God. The book of Judges shows a nation that has gradually drifted away from God, culminating in the horrific events of chapters 19 to 21. When we distance ourselves from God, we become more susceptible to engaging in behaviors we once considered unthinkable. This story serves as a stark warning about the consequences of spiritual drift and the importance of maintaining a close relationship with God. The fourth lesson is that every bad decision has consequences, often far-reaching and uncontrollable. The Israelites' decision to attack the Benjamites led to a civil war, resulting in significant loss of life and further moral compromises, such as the kidnapping of women to provide wives for the Benjamite survivors. This illustrates the principle that while we can choose our actions, we cannot choose the consequences. Each decision sets off a chain of events that can impact many lives, often in ways we never anticipated. The fifth and final lesson is about God's grace amidst destructive decisions. Despite the chaos and sin depicted in these chapters, God's grace is evident in the preservation of the tribe of Benjamin. Although they faced severe consequences, they were not entirely wiped out. This demonstrates that even in our most destructive moments, God's grace is available to us. He provides opportunities for redemption and restoration, even when we have strayed far from His will. As we conclude this deeply unsettling story from Judges 19 to 21, I hope you have gained valuable insights from the lessons it imparts. This narrative, though disturbing, underscores the importance of accountability, the inherent value of every human being, the dangers of straying from God, the far-reaching consequences of our actions, and the enduring grace of God. Reflecting on these themes helps us recognize the significance of staying close to God and making choices that honor Him and respect others. It also reminds us of the profound impact our decisions can have and the need for compassion and justice in our interactions. Thank you for staying with me through this challenging story. May these lessons guide us in our journey of faith, encouraging us to live in a way that reflects God's love and grace. Remember, even in our darkest moments, God's grace offers us redemption and hope. God bless you, and see you in the next video. Thank you for staying with